And now, it's time for the week that was, featuring Coach Marc Montoya of Factory X.
All right, we're back in effect, y'all. Listen, this is the week that was here at Factory X. Today we're going to cover that major card, UFC 239 in Las Vegas. Really excited to, as a fan, get to watch this card and see what plays out here. Obviously, one of the biggest fights of the year and real close to home here at Factory X is the Jon Jones Thiago Santos fight. That fight right there is an exciting fight. Obviously, you have Santos with crazy power, really good kicker, loves to throw everything he's got into every single strike. Jon Jones is one of the most dynamic fighters I've ever had to game plan for. Probably one of the toughest people to look at and find holes for. And it took me hours to find those. And I'm assuming that Thiago's camp, very similar. They're going to look at it, dissect it, try to find those holes. This is what it comes down to, though. If you look back when Thiago Santos fought Kevin Holland, Kevin Holland's a new kid, built similar to Jon Jones. Obviously not as skilled yet as Jon Jones, not saying he can't be, but just not as refined as Jon. Also mentally not the same fighter that Jon is, but built the same way Jon is and has similar attributes when he goes into the octagon that he's able to throw at his opponents. He goes in there and he gives Thiago the business. I mean, he is making Thiago work for every single thing he could get. Obviously at the end Thiago gets him, but the struggle that Thiago had with that frame and that style, I think you're gonna see when he fights Jon Jones. Thiago is going to come out, I'm assuming, try to do exactly what he's always done, impose his will, throw a lot of power, throw things with bad intentions, but Jon Jones is a different animal, and the struggles he had with Kevin Holland, I think you'll find that he's going to have similar struggles here with Jon Jones, with that length, that range, him being dynamic, not knowing what's coming, doing really good at redirecting. Those are the things that Jon Jones is amazing at. Not including, not to just subtract from Jon Jones wrestling. I think you'll see Jon wrestle in this, at least put him against the cage, use his elbows, wrestle, put him on his back. The question here is, can Thiago Santos employ and use his gas tank to his advantage, or does he dump it and he's got 2 rounds and that's about it? That's the big question. So that's why we're going to watch that fight tonight. Jon Jones is one of the best ever. I know we have a lot of vested interest on who wins this, given that Anthony Smith is sitting in a great spot to fight for another title, and we're looking forward to that fight. All right, so shifting gears, we've got Amanda Nunes versus Holly Holm. Hey, wow, that's a tough fight right there. That fight right there is really interesting when you look at it on paper. Obviously, Holly and Amanda are both really good with their hands. Amanda, I would say, has more power than Holly. Holly is definitely a better kicker than Amanda. So if we're looking at hands versus kicking, that's 1-to-1. Now when we look at wrestling, neither one of them has shown amazing wrestling skills. Not that they can't wrestle, but neither one of them shows amazing wrestling skills. So let's just say that's even. If you look at cage work, Holly did an amazing job when she fought Megan Anderson against the cage. She appears to be not as strong as she really is. Not that she's not an athlete or what have you, but Megan's bigger than Holly, and Holly was able to neutralize her against the cage and work there and obviously put Megan on the ground. You've seen Amanda do similar stuff, so I would say cage work there is even. Now the ground, if we're gonna go just jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu, I would say Amanda has that that as an advantage. So if you look at this in just the total spectrum, Amanda has more striking power with her hands. Holly has better kicking, so she has more striking power with kicking. Wrestling's neutralized. Cage work, I'm going to say, is neutralized. Ground, I'm going to give Amanda the nod. So who wins this fight? I don't know. This is a tough ass fight. I don't know who wins this fight. Holly has to throw volume and absolutely make Amanda miss. That's something that has to happen on the feet. Holly's really good at that. Can she use her kicking blend? Because she's going to have to blend off her hands, because if she just kicks, Amanda's going to step in, find that gray area, and fire those power strikes with her hands that she has, and potentially catch Holly. When she fought Jermaine, that's what happened. And when she got rocked a little bit, I know that it was at the end of the round and it was after the bell, and she got rocked twice that way. But she was rocked twice that way by throwing kicks without a lot of setup. So that's the question. Can Holly do a better job at setting up the kicks, or does Amanda come out and sit, take a kick, not get kicked out of her stance? Because that's the key. Holly has to kick her out of her stance, so she has to reset and then throw. Because if she's just able to block and go, then you're going to see some power come from Amanda. So question is, will Holly do that? You know she's going to employ that oblique kick. That comes from the Jackson team, is notorious for throwing that. I think that's a great strategy. You've got to throw that oblique kick. Teeps up the middle or something that's going to be important. I think if I'm Holly's camp, I'm telling them to attack Amanda's body and then later find the head. So I don't know though. Amanda, man, against all of her opponents, has shown unbelievable will to win. And against Cyborg, I mean, she went out there and just buzzsawed her. No one saw that coming. So, hey, this is an amazing fight. Tune in and let's see who wins this one. All right, so we've got another 205 fight here that we're talking about. You've got Luke Rockhold versus Jan Blachowicz. I think those two is really interesting. If you look at this, you've got Luke coming up. You've got Jan, who's shown some amazing heart in the cage and really good skill, by the way. The guy, I think, is way underrated. And I feel like Luke feels like, hey, this is my tune-up fight to go and meet the big boys like Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, John Jones, those type of guys. Man, Jan's no tune-up fight. That guy is a beast, and he's big. At 205, just stature-wise, he's a big guy. And Luke coming up, the question is will Luke's power in his kicking translate the same against a 205er? My guess is yes, but I don't know. We're gonna see. I think that's Luke's best weapon, is his left kick. Obviously, he's amazing off his back. He's got good jiu-jitsu, and he's done a great job on top, like we saw when he fought Branch. So those are the things that when you look at this fight, you go, okay, there's a lot of question marks because Luke's not fought at 205 in the UFC. Jan has. Jan's a bigger guy. Luke likes to throw that left kick. Jan's good at throwing hands. So I think Jan goes out there and tries to sit down, work through his range, and go get him with his hands. And then Luke's got to stay long and pick him apart, potentially put Jan on his back. That's the one thing that if Blachowicz has a weakness that I've seen, is that he, on his back, he wasn't able to get up when he was doing a lot of work on his feet and then got put on his back. That's where he got beat just recently, was that type of game plan. So does Luke do that? I don't know. We'll see. If I'm in his camp, absolutely, that's something I would definitely say, hey, let's follow that and look to follow that trend, put him on his back, and go showcase Luke's skills on top. So with all that said, amazing 205 fight, another one here on this card. Look forward to seeing what happens there. All right, so the last fight we're covering is Diego Sanchez versus Michael Chiesa. Well, I know Diego Sanchez really well, given that we are neighbors here, Colorado, New Mexico. I've watched most of his career. I've watched, whether it was in the UFC or him coming up. One of the most interesting guys I've ever met in my entire life. I'll tell you a quick story. So I went down to Albuquerque, I don't know, probably 8 years ago. I took about 4 or 5 of my guys at the time. We didn't have the same quantity that we have today here at Factory X. So I went down there, and Greg Jackson and I are good friends. So I went down there, brought about 4 or 5 people. One of the people I brought was Marcus Edwards, who fought for me forever at 155. Diego Sanchez, one of the things you need to know about Marcus is that the guy is clueless when it comes to who is who. So he can't put a face and name together ever. And it's always funny, it's kind of a running joke that we'd have. But anyway, we're at Jackson's, it's sparring day. Marcus Edwards is sparring Diego Sanchez. He has no idea that this is happening, who this is. He goes in there, he fights, spars Diego Sanchez, and he won that round. And Diego was just pissed, super pissed. I look back, I'm watching my other guys spar, and then I hear someone saying, "Hey, coach," and I didn't necessarily know it was for me because there's a bunch of coaches in the room at the time. Well, the round starts, it's about 40 seconds, I keep hearing, "Coach, it's Marcus Edwards in the cage with Diego Sanchez." Diego Sanchez took his shin pads off, took his 16s off, put 12s on, and then he wanted to spar Marcus again for the second time. That's just summing up Diego Sanchez. Obviously, he's an amazing athlete, but I think Chiesa is just way bigger than him. I think Chiesa is obviously as good, if not better than him on the ground, and his range is going to be really tough for Diego to get through. Fight-wise, and if I was a betting man, I'd bet on Chiesa, but man, you can never count out Diego. That dude is a monster. So, really cool fight to see. Look forward to watching a legend like Diego get in there. I know he just got inducted in the Hall of Fame for his fight versus Guida, so that's really cool to see. Man, he's a trailblazer. The fans win on this one. Guys, that's the week that was here at Factory X and around the MMA community. Go to our YouTube channel and give us a look. Go like, share, and subscribe. We've got nothing but great content coming out every week, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Last thing I'll leave you with is just a little quote from Carl Sandburg. He says, "To be a good loser is to learn how to win." So remember, guys, if you're going to be a good loser, you got to learn how to win. That means that losing piece will stop. But go find those ways to win this week.